the name of Almighty Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent, the most benevolent. In our session, we'd like to discuss another very important aspect of corporate governance regulations meant for listed companies. As you know, that listed companies are those which are enlisted with Pakistan Stock Exchange. Their number is approximately 500 at this moment, and these almost 500 companies, they represent different sectors, including banking, including finance, including construction, fertilizer, textile, energy, oil marketing company, oil exploration, and so on and so forth. These are the different sectors, and these companies, in fact, there are, say, dozens of companies registered in one sector. If I quote an example of oil marketing and exploration sector, we have OGDC, we have Pakistan Petroleum Limited. Among marketing companies, we have companies like Shell Pakistan, we have Caltex, we have Pakistan State Oil, and so on and so forth. These are listed companies. You can buy and sell their shares on Pakistan Stock Exchange. And these listed companies are the backbone of Pakistan's economy. And since in order to conduct the business of this sector, this corporate sector, this is important that we should make them liable for certain responsibilities, and we should have an authority which is meant for regulating the affairs of these companies. Here in Pakistan, we have Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan. In India, we have Securities and Exchange Board of India, commonly known as SEBI. And this is how internationally, in all economies, we have regulators, which is meant for regulating the affairs of corporate sector and especially the listed companies. Now, in this session, we will discuss the corporate governance regulations meant for listed companies, and especially another important area which deals with responsibilities for financial reporting and corporate compliance. In our previous session, we have discussed at length, and there is another video available on my YouTube channel where the thumbnail of that topic is comply and explain approach. Now here we will go through a similar sort of facet, and we will discuss. There are two regulations which are meant for this area, and these regulations are regulation number 25 and 26. So let's start with number 25. Regulation 25 is titled regarding the financial statements. Let me invite Ms. Iman Mujahid to share this with the participants.
Resolution 25, Financial Statement endorsed by Chief Financial Officer and Chief Executive Officer. The Chief Executive Officer and the Chief Financial Officer shall duly endorse the quarterly, half-yearly, and annual financial statements under their respective signatures prior to placing and circulating the same for consideration and approval of the board.
Absolutely right. So, Chief Financial Officer is duty bound to compile with the financial statement, and of course, there is the periods of time or the span of time is given, and that is on the quarterly basis, half yearly basis, and on annual basis. There has to be the statements, and in listed companies we see that financial statements plays an important role, especially on quarterly basis. We know that these financial statements These are the basic information which are in fact required in order to announce the profit or loss of the company. And if companies are in profit, then of course dividend is paid to the shareholders. And vis-a-vis the EPS of a company, which is earning per share, and loss and profit, all these important figures are the outcome of a financial statement. And these financial statements are quarterly, biannually, and on annual basis. But at the same time, this is important to see that the CFO is required to tabulate the financial statement, and he's supposed to submit the same for the consideration to the stakeholders. And after due deliberation and consideration, and if an approval is accorded or granted by the board of directors, then that financial statement is submitted to the Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan, and these are also available on the website of respective company. This point or this regulation deals with the responsibility in terms of reporting to the concerned authorities and regulators in terms of the financial and fiscal status of the company. Now we will move on and look at the second regulation of this chapter, that is regulation number 26, which deals with the external auditors. You see, the financial statement is made by the chief financial officer, who is one of the stakeholder or who is one of the employee of the company. So there can always be apprehension that he may, you see, present accounts in a manner to show that company is in profits, company is earning good profits, and so on. So in order to have a check on that happening, in order to make the whole financial statement more transparent, this is required that external auditors should be appointed. Let me invite another member of our participant to read Regulation 26. Mr. Kamran Shaukat, please. Mr. Kamran Shaukat, I'd like you to share Regulation 26 with the participants. I'm afraid he can't hear me. Let me ask Ms. Zarmeen Qureshi for the reading, please.
Point number 6. External Auditor, Chief Executive Officer and Chief Financial Officer shall have their annual and interim financial statement, both standalone and consolidated, where applicable, initiated by the external auditors before presenting it to the audit committee and the board for approval.
Absolutely right. So the financial statements, if it is interim or it is in fact annual, it has to be in fact placed before the external auditors, and once it is thoroughly perused or it is examined at length, then that report is is justified or permissible to be presented to the board for its approval. And but prior to the board, there is an audit committee. In our forthcoming session, we will of course look at certain committees and subcommittees in a company which works underneath the board of directors, and these committees are normally comprising of people who are from that area of or from that field. If it is audit committee, all the relevant personnels from the audit department, they will be the members of that committee, and they will be responsible to submit the audits or to conduct the audit of this fiscal status of the company. This is external auditor, Regulation 26, and then we have Regulation 25, which deals with financial statements and its endorsement. If there is a question before I move on to the next topic. Yes, please. The discussion we just had, Ms. Fatima Hassan, can you please recap the discussion or the topics we just discussed regarding the financial statement and external audit? Ms. Fatima Hassan, please. Well, let me ask Ms. Iman Mujahid to recap what we discussed.
So we have discussed two resolutions, and in the first one, it was said that the executives, they should duly endorse the statements, the financial statements, before they're put up on the official websites of the companies. And there was the second resolution, which says that the chief executive officer and the CFO, they shall have both an annual and interim financial statement, both standalone and consolidated, where they're applicable, before being approved by the board.
Absolutely right. But there is another tier between the same, and that is audit committee, which is meant for, perusing that statement prior to its submission to the board of directors for approval. So these two regulations have dealt with the financial statements, its endorsement, its approval, and it is vetting by the external auditors. Thank you very much for your participation, and let's conclude this session. Thank you.